Okay, now we're ready to start testing some voltages. We got everything all put in, and we got our transformer in. I put a new plug on the cord. This one, the ground was missing, which is gonna, you're gonna find that most of these plugs on these older machines, if it had a ground on the plug, it's gonna be missing. A lot of the bars and places that were the operators put these machines in still only had a 2-prong plug. They didn't have the ground on the plug in the wall. So instead of buying a potload of those adapters, most of the operators you just break that ground off, and then you can plug it in and use it that way. But, you know, it's a good idea to make sure that your ground is on. With the newer, it helps. I mean, this was late 70s, and that's about the time they started putting in the sockets with the 3-prong, was in the 70s. Before that, it was just all a 2-prong outlet. But we got her plugged in. We got our rectifier board and transformer plugged in. And now we need to check some voltages up top here on our test points. And I wrote them all down. You can see test point 1, which is the one starting in the back here. Oop, back here. That's 1. And coming forward to pin 5. We have 4 DC voltages and 1 AC voltage. AC is usually the lights, and the rest of it is direct current. DC. Direct current is a little stronger. That's why they use that on the solenoids and everything, is because the direct current, since it's a direct, it's not wavy. Direct current's more of a stable, but it doesn't carry as far as AC. That's why everything went to AC, is because of the way it bounces up and down. It will travel further than the DC going across. That's why we all have AC coming out of the wall and not DC. Even though DC, like I said, is a little stronger. Okay, first thing we're going to do here is make sure that I got our ground hooked up. I want to make sure that our ground is working all the way through the machine. So we'll touch the back, and you can see we're in good. So now we're going to put this on DC 200, and we're going to finally get to turn this on. Yeah, it did something. I can hear just a little bit of a transformer hum. So we're getting some power. So on our first test point, we should have around 54 volts. .9. Okay, or is that, oops, I'm sorry, that should be 5.4 volts. Damn, not 54. So we have 5.9, so we're good there. God, second one we should have 230. Which we have 184, which that drives our displays, and 184 volts is actually pretty good for our displays. Now our third one should be right around 12, which we have 8.2. That might be a little low. We'll have to find out then. And then the fifth one should be around 43. That should be our, yep, that's our solenoid voltage. And now number 4, oops, should be around 7.3, which we're right there at 7.2. We only have one that's a little low, and that's our test point 2 for our displays. 2 is, like I said, about 184. So at least we're not too high, we're good there. Now what we need to do is we'll get our solenoid driver board plugged in and check some voltages on it and see how we're doing up there. Alright, now, oh, that's the soundboard. Okay, I got the bottom one plugged in. That'll be our solenoid driver board. If you remember, that's the one we put together for this. Hopefully I posted that before we got this far. Now we'll turn her back on, and okay, no fires, no weird noise. And now we need to check test point 1. Okay, we don't have, oh, should be another one here. Where's it at? Ah, there it is. There they are. Let me see what I have. I have nothing. And nothing. And test point 2. We have 140 volts for our displays. That we can turn up. Turn up. Turn up. But we don't have a 5 volts or our 12. .4. Let me make sure my okay, there's our ground. Let's move our ground to the board. It's still the same. Okay, yep, looks like we got, there's test point 3. Knew you were around there somewhere. Still nothing. Okay, and we still have our, oops. We still have our voltages. Oops. Test point 3 should be our 12, and we lost our 12 down here. Alright, let me see what I can figure out what happened. Okay, before we start getting into everything, start tearing crap apart, let's check this out first and see what should be going on here. You can see this is our bridge rectifier here, and we have our negative, which is our ground coming down off of the back point there, and we should have coming through our fuse. F3 is a 4 amp fuse coming into our bridge rectifier. It is our 12 volt AC, and it should turn it, the bridge rectifier will turn it into 11.9 DC. Now we were getting 8 without stuff hooked up. Oh, so let's see what's going on here on the other side of it. let's make sure we have our 12 volts going into it. Alright, well, turn the machine back on. We'll set this to AC. Now let me see if I can get you in here. There we go. Here's test point 3 right there. Nope, that's 2. Test point 3 here. Our 12 volt, here's our fuse coming in, and we have nothing. Nothing on our fuse on that side. That side we have our 12 volts AC. So let's pull this fuse and take a peek at it and see if it's blown. I checked all those fuses beforehand, but this should be a 4 amp. And I don't see. Let's put this around to continuity and see if we can't pin this down and test it with one hand. Now we can throw it in the bottom cabinet, and then we can try and find it in the bottom cabinet. Probably rolled under the brace. Yep, of course, because I sure don't see any filament in there. Let me see if I can pin that down again. And that fuse is deader than a can of corned beef. Okay, let me see if I can round up a 4 amp. That's not a slow blow, that's just a regular 4 amp fuse. Okay, now I replace that fuse, and let's see what we got going on now. Turn that on. Now, test point 3. 1, 2, 3. 10, 2. Still a little low, but let's check our solenoid board. We have on our test point 5, 8.7, 8.8, and that should be 12 volt, and this test point 1 should be our 5 volt. We have 3.8. Man, that's still awful low to me. Either that or my meter's off, but man. But I'd rather it be low than too high, so we're gonna run with it. Let's see what we have coming off of our cap. 8.6, yeah. Should be 12. Yeah, let me do a little more investigating. Let's make sure test point 1 and 5. Let's find our solenoid driver board, lamp, solenoid driver, voltage regulator. 1 and 5, we went, okay, 5 should have 11.9, and test point 1 should be 5 DC and 12 DC. And we're at 8 and 3.8, which seems awful low to me, but we're going to run with it and see if, I don't know, hopefully it comes up with putting more of a load on it. But anyway, let's run with it and see what happens. Okay, we got the play field. I slid the play field down in and plugged her up. turned it on, and now we have some GI on our play field. And I changed out all the light bulbs on the back board, and we got them all done. So now that's all lit up, and our play field's all lit up. Now, before we put an MPU in it, notice I said before, even though there's one in it, we are going to go through our displays. We have one here that's got some burnt marks on it. There's just, I think that's the only one. That one looks clear. That one looks clear. So does that one. And that one does too. It's just dusty. Okay, what we need to do is take them over to the bench, and I need to check all of our pins and reflow them. I think there's one right there on the end. Yep, that one and the one next to it both have cold solder joints, or have just, you know, broken through, or the solder has broken. What happens is, from pulling the connectors off, you always kind of pull on the one end, and when you're pulling up on it, it kind of puts a lot of stress on the ends. So you need to go through and reflow all the pins on them, just to make sure that they all have good connections. There's a couple of them, like that one's already been done, but I'll go ahead and redo it again. And we'll get all these done. We'll slide that bad one in down on player 4 and see how bad it is. We may. This one actually looks like it was in the ball and match, because you can see these two here have not been used. But these 4, those are the 4 that are used in your game, your ball, and your match. Those are the 4 that are used. So you can kind of tell that that's where that one was at. We may put it back in that same spot and see how it looks. We may have to get a new one at some point. But let me get these all cleaned up, and we'll get the pins reflowed and get them slid in and hooked up, so we can put an MPU in this and see if this machine's going to boot for us. Alright, here's a good example of cold solder. Let's see if I can. Yeah. Look how that last pin is totally busted out. There we go. And you can see the one next to it, the ring around it, and that one actually has a gap, has a garpy in it. So that's what you're looking for, and that's what you need to address on these displays when you get them in. You know, it could be that, yeah, this one looks like the glass had been changed. No, that they did some work up here on that corner. I'll have to take a look at that corner there too and see what's going on. Make sure it's okay. But yeah, this is what you look for, and this is what you got to take care of when you get these machines in, before you even worry about trying to fix anything. You know, you got to make sure the displays are in good condition first. Now we won't know anything about any of the transistors or and none of these have been changed. Usually on these displays you have these three, and these three right up in there are the ones that usually overheat, go bad. Those are the ones you usually end up having to change. The transistors on these, let me see if I can remember. Let's see, one set of transistors, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, drives your digits, and then you have these 7 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, drive the 7 segments on your display. If you look at your number, there is 7. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 in the middle, 5, 6, 7. So if all of them have one dead segment, you can track it down in the schematics as to which one drives that certain segment on all the numbers. And you have one that drives the numbers, and then the other one, I think there's 2 sets here that drive the numbers, and then these drive the segments, something like that anyway. But you can narrow it down, you know, if you have one digit out, you can look in the schematics for these and track it down to one individual transistor. Now that last one we did on Knight Rider, we tracked it down and it was one bad resistor. Sometimes the control chips go bad, but usually it's the transistors that peter out on you. I'll reflow these and I'll test all the transistors and see how they look, and clean the pins, and then we'll be ready to put that one in and move on to the next one. We have 5 of these that we have to go over to make sure that they're all in good condition and ready to fire up if we get anything out of the MPU. Alright, I just spent the past, I don't know, 4 to 6 hours repinning every one of our connectors, every one in the back box. I was having quite a bit of problems, you know, getting the voltage out of our rectifier board, and I was kind of hoping, you know, that we could kind of go through it and get things working, and then do some troubleshooting, you know, and replace some pins and all that. I knew I was going to have to do some of the pins, but this is the neat little pile of crap I took out of there. I mean, it was some of these. Let me see if I can get it to focus up. You can see that there's nothing. I mean, they're just totally green. I realized I was going to have to do them when I plugged in the solenoid driver board, and the pins broke inside the connector. When I pulled it off, they were just kind of hanging out of the end. So I decided to go ahead and just sit down, do them all, make sure that we're going to have good connections on everything. And here in a minute we'll plug it in, or we'll turn it on and test our voltages again and see if any of our voltages came up. Let's see, those connectors, you can kind of think of it as putting a resistor in between the connector and the wire, your source, and the wire coming in, and your electricity current being restricted. And that's what happens on those. You're not getting a real good contact, so you're kind of restricting the flow of electrons. And when you do that, you don't get your full voltages. So let's get our meter. I went through a whole bag of connectors. There's 100 in those bags, and that's about what I went through. That's what I have left. Looks like there's about 10 or 15 left in there. Did all the these take the 0.1, and those white ones, those are the bigger ones. These guys, that's a 0.156. It goes in your white connectors. Alright, 200 volt. I'll turn that on. I don't have anything else plugged in again, except for some lights. Our GI for our play field. So now let's see what we get. This should be 5.4. Which is kind of climbing, and I'm not real happy about it not being steady. Okay, our next one, 185. That's better. We only had 174 the last time. And 13.5. See, we had 8 volts when we tested this before we put the new connectors in. And that's our solenoid voltage, which is good. And we need to switch that over to AC to test our last one, which is 6.7, which should be around 7. So that one is still just a tad low. But I'm just, I don't like how, there we go, 5.9. That was my meter that was acting stupid. 5.9 now. So now we can plug in our solenoid driver board and see what kind of voltages we have on it. So let me turn this off. We'll get her plugged in and test everything that one after it. Alright, we're all hooked up, and I got the machine turned on. You see, we got some GI, and I don't know if I showed you the voltages on the regulator board or not, but okay, this should be our 12, which this is unregulated at the moment, which is 14.9. This is our 5 volts. See, now we have 4.9. And this is our high voltage for our displays. Oops. I may be above 200. Let's see what we got now. Yep, 216. There, and 250 for our displays, so we're going to have to turn that down. So now we have all of our voltages, except for our high voltage, and I need to adjust that down a little bit. Let me see, and that's our little pot here. I like to run these around 180. Let's see, what do we got? There's 200. See if we can get that down to around 180. 183, perfect. I'm not going to piss with it anymore. Okay, and now you can see what MPU. I went ahead and spent the money and bought a new Weebly, and because that's what I use in all my machines. Is if I'm going to use a new MPU, I go with Weebly. I've had really good luck with them. So now we need to plug it in and see if we can get our flashes. If we get our flashes, then we can start hooking up everything else. So give me well, let me see. I think I can We'll turn that off. And this is the only one we need to plug in, is our J4. J4? Yeah. Nope, upside down. It's the whole problem when you repin them, you're twisting them all over the place and they get kind of goofy. So let's see what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And she's booted. That first flash was the test. Had to have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. It reset for some reason. I don't think I have the displays plugged in. So let's go ahead and I'll turn that off, and I have those two plugged in. This should be our display. Got those tight with new pins. Oh, now I gotta get two hands on that. Okay, I needed to get in there with both hands and get that so I could. Oh, all right. Let's see what happens now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's our 7 flashes. LED. Oop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Still not real thrilled about the LED's on, but it's kind of dim. But we have displays working. Kinda. Got some ghosting going on up there, and a 3. That one's dead. Alright, well, we've got it that far. Now I got to start getting everything else hooked up and gone through and make sure everything else is okay. Our lamp driver board I need to get mounted in there, and that's the old sound board, and we're not using it. I had to break down, and I just bought a new one. So that one is new too, and we'll get that mounted in there. And I got to get some wires kind of squared away in here. Right now I just have stuff hanging in there while we kind of work on things. But yeah, like I said, I got some ghosting going on up there. That one's dead, and no coin door, so we're not going to be able to do much there either. I'm working on the coin door. All right, let me get some other stuff hooked up, and then we can see what else we got going on. As you can see, there's no lamp driver board in it. I put the original one in, and this one was acting really funky. I think it's because we got some rust. That's the original lamp driver board that was in this machine. This is the only board left that's yet original, except for the rectifier board and transformer. But this is the only one that was left. And I don't know, instead of what it was doing is lights were locking on, and we had a couple of them flashing, and it was just really doing some weird stuff. So I I just turned it off and pulled it. I'm not going to mess with it if it's going to act like that. I'm not going to try and go through, spend all the time trying to figure out. Probably have to change all 4 of the control chips in it. Because we have good ones. We have this one here, but there's a couple transistors missing on it. You know, and it would be no big deal since this one's missing parts that we could pull all 4 of the control chips and put it on our original board. But do we really want to go through all that when we have this complete board with one little transistor that's I don't know if it didn't get soldered down or what. No, that one didn't get soldered down. So we have this board here, which is complete and just needs a little bit of work done on it. And then we have 2 other ones here that are complete and probably work. You can see this one came up from TNT Amusement. Yeah, and same with this one. This one's complete, and I'm sure it probably works too. With, you know, maybe a light or 2 out. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and put a little work into this one and save the 2 for like when I have a machine that I need to just throw one in and be done. And we'll save those 2. I may go ahead and test them in Star Trek just to make sure that they are good and get them all cleaned up and reflow the pins and all that at some point and test them, make sure if they're good, then I can just mark them good and put them up, and then they'll be ready to throw in a machine, like, you know, over a night ride, or if a light driver board kind of craps out, we can just pull it and put another one in and be done. So I think since we're doing a little bit of work on, just a little bit of work on our Star Trek, I think I'll go ahead and just, you know, resolder our little transistor back in. The little transistors are usually for the general illumination, from what I could tell, and the big ones are the big transistors, or SCRs, whatever, are for the special features lights that are, you know, coming on and off all the time, so you need a little heavier transistor to control those. The little ones just control your general illumination, because you know, you just turn on the machine, and when you start a game, there's lights that come on, and I don't know. I could get into it, but I really don't think it's necessary right now. You know, if you have lights out on your play field or back box during a track mode or something like that, you can come back and we can read the schematics and determine which ones we need to look at. But for right now, what we're going to do is we'll resolder that little transistor. I'll go ahead and resolder all of our headers on this one, and we'll pop this one in. See, this one's in really good shape. So that, and our old one, let's see, that's the other one that, you know, definitely can be rebuilt. There's just some big transistors and little ones missing. And this one, you know, you can see it was getting a little ugly looking. You know, in fact, we can pull everything off of this one and put it on that one and build another good one. So I don't think this one's ever going to get used again. I think this is always going to be a parts board from now on. You know, unless I really, really need one and I can pull the chips and put new control chips on it. But when you have good ones, why do that? All right, let me get this one ready and we'll get this one popped in. and see what we get. All right, we got that driver board all serviced and put in, and now we're ready to see what we got. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and guess what? Now we have a working lamp driver board. As far as we can tell anyway, it is doing all of our track mode. I do see I have a lamp out, the B up here. Okay, well, we have one anyway that's not lighting, but that could be just a bad socket. So I think we're good. All right, now what we're gonna do is let's see if we can get some sound out of this Star Trek. She's really wanting to come back to life. She's feeling really good about a new MPU, a good working solenoid driver board, good lamp board, good rectifier and transformer. She's really feeling good. Now all we have to do is make some noise. Can't make her talk because this one doesn't talk. This one will just have some sound, some beeps and bulps and some futuristics. The only problem is right at the moment we can put the soundboard in and hope we get some sound when we first turn it on, but I can't start a game yet. Still haven't finished the front. I am over here. See, that's another thing these playfield stands work good for, is you can put a board up on there and use it for our workspace as well, which I needed. But yep, working on the door assembly. We got a lot of rust. I mean, this is the way it is when I got it in, and so far it looks like I'm going to be able to salvage everything. It's not going to look pretty, but everything's going to be functional, and that's the biggest thing, is just to get everything functional and reliable. Coin mechs, and all that. I have more coin mechs, but I got to make sure that our pieces that hold our coin mechs, the coin mech receiver, is clean, and same with our back panel here. I cleaned up the door face. It's a little beat up, but I'm not worried about that either. That's not going to make or break the machine. That's not going to make it not work. And we got to make sure our coin chutes are working. And wiring, no big deal on wiring. That's just, we can go through the wiring. I think this is the credit switch or start switch, whatever. We got one broken diode on it. And our little test switch, the plate's ugly. I might take that plate off her and clean that plate up at least. Yeah. And we still have a little bit of some snake skin left on it. And there's some snake skin that I pulled off of this. Now this one's been sitting somewhere where there's been some critters. This may have been in a barn or a shed. And we know we had a snake living in it anyway. Or at least checking it out. And he really liked the coin door when he was shedding his skin, so because he could get a hold of things and peel his skin right off. And so it's all right. I just wouldn't have wanted to open it up and find him, because I'm not afraid of snakes, but the little buggers scare the hell out of you when they just pop out of nowhere. It's like a mouse. Sneaky little devils. But that's probably what he was looking for. Looking for a mouse. Looking for vermin. But well, I'll get this all cleaned up. But I think first what we're going to do next is, I'm getting kind of anxious here. I think I want to put in the soundboard and see if we get something coming up when we first turn it on. What's kind of interesting and what's kind of puzzling me right at the moment is a lot of these machines, when they first start up, you know, they pop up the targets and a few other things happen, like going through the solenoid board, and we're not getting that when we first turn it on. So I got to get the door put all back together so we can get the test switch hooked up so we can work on that and make sure everything is working. That's for the soundboard. I got it all repinned, ready to go in. So let's go get the soundboard and put it in. All right, here you see we got a new soundboard, new wibbly, set up for Star Trek. Now, what do you think? You think she's gonna make some noise for us? Oh, yeah. Alright, cool. Now we got some noise out of it, and we'll play around with it and get the volume adjusted the way we want it. And that after, there's the sustain. Okay, and there's the voltage. There's the volume. Alright. Now we got everything in there, and everything seems to be working. The only thing we have is we have our one display that's not working there, and we have a ghosting up there. So that we will work on then too. After I get the coin door all put back together and put on, so we can get it in test mode and test our displays and see if it's in our displays or wiring. We can go ahead. We could pull number 4 and put it up number 1, and vice versa, and see if that's it, which we may just do here. But first, I'm going to start getting that coin door all put back together. We'll get it cleaned up and put on, so we can get it put on. And that's about what we're going to have left to do. Coin door and shooter rod. Then we can do some tests and test our switches and everything and solenoids and see what's working and not working and see what troubleshooting we have to do. But I'm not going to end this episode until after I get the coin door all put together and put on. So stay with me here a little bit longer, and we'll get that coin door all put back together and put on. Yeah, I got the coin door. Coin door? Yeah, coin door. Coin door all put on. And I'll put back together. You can see it's, not the prettiest, but it'll work fine. And let's see, now I think I have, where you at? I got one light bulb here I need to fix on the coin door. Okay, still no solenoid, but that'll be in the next video. We'll start doing some troubleshooting. We got everything all put together on this. It's all together now. So all we have to do is some troubleshooting and probably some gameplay. So, well, we got to put the pooper rod back on it. But this one has been a long time. I've been working on Star Trek for over a month. A little bit here, a little bit there, just because it was so bad. I was working on Star Trek when I was working on Chicago Coin Cinema, and when I was working on Sinbad, and actually I started it when I was working on Knight Rider. So it's been quite a while since I've been working on this, and we're finally in the home stretch, I hope. So I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I enjoyed making it for you. And I definitely hope to see you in the next video. So until next time, see ya.